When you're in a safe place like Ujamaa Community Bookstore, it's easier to speak your truth. Kelly shares more about her abuse experience that also happens to our children.
One of the main components of the bill is to make sure that HR departments and companies across this country are not allowed to be part of the investigation. There must be a separate investigative process, which is what I have been saying all along. Before I even knew about EWA, I'm like, if I had been able to have like an outside company to come in, that allowed the witnesses to feel safe and protected to share their truth without fear of retaliation and retribution.
Well, see, in my case, though, the company hired.
That's right.
So,
same
thing.
difference.
Yeah,
Right.
it's the same
And they
thing.
make it sound as if sometimes, oh, well, we hired an outside firm. Can you really trust the outside firm? Because the outside firm has been hired. They're getting their money, obviously, from the company, and they're
Right.
going to do what the company wants them to do. So it's a catch-22. 9 times out of 10, it always falls on the way of, in favor of the company, in favor of the company. And so we're really working to make sure that that doesn't happen, that there's an outside body that is, responsible for having these investigations where people who are witnesses as well as the victims feel totally safe in speaking their truth and showing information and evidence that will help them. There's that conflict of interest that's automatically kind of woven into the fabric of society that we must dismantle. What have you been doing personally to just kind of work through it?
Continue to go through therapy. Like I said, this time that I have had off, my family keeps saying, "Mom, this is for you to rest."
No, we're like, we're not used to resting.
No, I'm not used to resting. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go organize this in my
Because
younger
don't you
daughter.
feel sometimes like unproductive?
Yes.
I say that to my home.
Yes.
Like, I just feel like I'm wasting my life. I feel like I'm not doing anything.
Exactly. So just that, and then being involved in EWA, and I'm just, I'd say probably within the last 8 months have started to network on LinkedIn and everything, and I attended seminar or webinars and things like that about DEI and clinical research, Black women in science and STEM, in science and engineering, and connecting with women, people of color, as well as Caucasians. And why am I hearing the same story?
The same story. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. Every woman that I have spoken with, they have the same story. Same story.
Yeah, the same story. We are silenced because I think there's this notion that, especially as Black women, you guys can carry it. You can handle it. You can handle it. I don't know about you all, but I'm exhausted.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because I'm not a reader, but when you were telling me about the Right Within book,
Oh yeah.
and I started to read that, and I'm like, oh my gosh! I told my husband, I'm like, this
That's just me.
is me.
This is my life.
I'm like, she's telling my story right here, and how can this be?
Yeah.
Something has to happen. This cannot continue to happen. We are killing ourselves, sometimes literally. People are doing that because of all the pressure. And as people of color, we already have so much on us. I didn't realize, I don't know, my kids had said something, my son, he's like, the majority of Black people have hypertension because they have so much on them. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, just think about when we go to the store. I'm like, yeah. I got to make sure I'm visible, if I got to get a tissue out of my purse or, whatever. He said, that's all stress.
It's a microaggression and stress, absolutely.
He said, and this is just your norm. This is how we function, and because this is how we're taught, and it comes second nature, but that's stress, and that's putting so much on us. So if we're starting out like that, then you go to work, you're dealing with more. Again, I'm surprised that, my body is healing itself. always going to have Hashimoto's, you know, and I go through periods where my hair will thin and then it'll grow back and then it'll thin. And it's like something has to give.
Yeah.
We can't continue to live this way. And it's just like it's coming from all sides. Like it's, for me, from clinical research, it's coming because our people aren't participating in these studies. So, you know, we're not getting the medication or the care that we need, the health equity, and don't get me started on that.
Yes, that's a big one too.
Yeah, you know, that even that I've experienced myself. I'll never forget, I'm sorry, I was having an anaphylactic reaction and I was working and I went down to the ER. I had my suit on and everything.
You're like, I'm looking professional. And,
I'm calm.
I'm calm, yeah.
And I said, I'm having an anaphylactic reaction. I need to see someone so I can get epi. And I have my EpiPen with me. Oh no, well we'll give you a breathing treatment.
Wow.
That's not what I need. I didn't get the treatment that I needed. I was told that the ER didn't have epinephrine.
Hospital
So
doesn't have it.
I was driving home, and my husband, he's like, Kelly, what's going on with your throat? You sound like a frog. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just clearing my throat. He said, drive to the hospital. So I drove to the hospital by our house, and just so happened that I had a nurse that had seen me before there for a reaction. And then she said, why didn't you give yourself your shot? And then I am so severe in this instance where I have to give myself 2 shots in order for it to be effective. She said, and I said, well, my mom's a nurse, and she said, you don't give yourself your own medicine when you're in the hospital. She said, I don't care if the doctor's standing in front of you.
Yeah.
If they're not going, and this was a white nurse, she said, you give yourself a shot and then deal with it.
Yeah.
Don't ever do this. So it's like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, so again, darn if you do, darn if you don't. If you come in and you look like you're poor or you don't have insurance, they don't want to help you.
Right.
If you come in and you're professional, and I asked a friend who worked at that hospital, she's like, oh, because you were too calm. And because you didn't look like you were in distress. Then what?
Then what?
You know, I mean, so what do? There's nothing that we can do. And so yeah, so we have to take it upon ourselves to, one, educate ourselves about our health, about clinical research, you know, even looking for other people that can help you. Don't get me started. My mom had, she had COVID when it first started. And it's a miracle that she's here. She was on the vent for 27 days. And she's a nurse. And they weren't treating her. Now, you're not supposed to treat people differently just because they're in the profession, but she got it from being a nurse. And I asked a doctor to be taken off of her case. And I have a notebook still. I wanted to know this lab, that lab, this lab. And they were like, well, are you a nurse? I know, I'm in clinical research.
Right.
Oncology is my specialty. I know things, but this is what I want. And then I guess the word got spread because whenever I have a call twice a day, and then they started giving me just automatically what I wanted, and then I asked questions, and I would talk to the doctor, and I'd ask questions. I didn't know about COVID, so I still had to do my research. We have to do that because they're not going to do it for us. Just like we have to do this. Because no one is going to do it for us.
That's right. We have to be our own advocates.
Yes.
We really, really have to be our own advocates. And that's exactly what I did in one instance when my assistant news director took me to the office. I had asked for time off in the month of March for spring break. This was in early February. And he says, well, you can't take any more time off. You're not going to be able to take any time off until June. I go, well, why am I waiting for 6 months? He goes, well, you owe us 2 days from your cancer treatments.
Oh.
I literally sat there, and we were in this private room, and I just looked at him, and I said, Lord, give me the strength. And I had to take a couple of beats, couple of breaths. And I just said at that moment, that was when they were put on notice that I was serious. I'll never forget this moment. I remember what I had on. I had this shawl, and it was like a scarf, and I remember wrapping it around my neck. It was a moment. And I said, I don't know if you remember, I'm currently still doing immunotherapy treatments right now. I have been trying to fight to live. I've been trying to fight so that I can live and thrive. I said, what you're telling me right now is harassment. As soon as I said that word, which was my being advocating for myself, because by that point I had still been, connecting emails and trying to get things to happen and talking to the GM and talking to the news director. Nothing was ever being done. But in that moment, I said, what do I have to lose now? I've got nothing else to lose because I'm not getting what I need here. So just keep it real. And that was the very first time I said, what you're doing right now is harassment, and I'm not going to tolerate it. And no sooner that conversation was over, I walked out, I went and sat down at my desk. I was getting ready for the 5 o'clock newscast, going over the scripts. The assistant news director walked into the news director's office. News director was there. The general manager came from upstairs. The HR lady came from upstairs. They were in the office. It's a open, glass, so you can see everything. They walk in, they close the door, and I said, they're talking about me right now. And that's when the egregiousness continued to increase, because now that they were put on notice, they were like, she used that word. And it just got worse from there. When you hold people accountable, it makes me feel good in that moment. I didn't know what the retaliation or what would happen as a result of it. But I was clear that I'm going to let you know exactly how I feel, because what you're doing is wrong. And so you're talking about advocacy. What does that feel like for you as we continue to go through this movement? What does advocacy look like for you? What does that mean as we're talking to people, how they can be an advocate in their own homes, in their own workplaces, in their own schools, for their children?
You have to take charge of every aspect of your life. And then, you may get, well, I don't know how, I don't know what to look up on the internet, and, it's, like I said earlier, it's a dream, a passion of mine, a dream to be that advocate, be one of those advocates for DEI. Now be one of these in DEI in clinical research. As far as healthcare goes, equitable healthcare, we have to take a stand. You have to take a stand for yourself. So just getting out there, having discussions. I'm currently trying to get a position in a pharmaceutical company, dealing with DEI and clinical research and things like that. But speak up. You know, and I know for a while, I had that whole financial thing. I had 2 kids in college, and it's like I can't afford to speak up. I can't afford to
And that's why a lot of people don't say anything.
Exactly, because of the finances, and I get that. I get that. But just even the little things, letting them know, I'm on to you.
Yeah, I got you. I see you.
But so don't think that I don't know what you're doing. No, it's not going to take you out of that situation, but it will give you, I hope, some power back, and to know that you don't have to settle.
Yes.
Because I settle. And girls that I have spoken to through networking on LinkedIn, and they wanted to, have a group meet and greet or whatever, young girls, and I've told them, do not settle.
Don't settle. Amen.
Don't settle. I settled, and I don't want you to.
Yeah.
You deserve everything. You got where you are because of your brain, your intelligence, all of that, all of your hard work. Don't ever forget that. Don't let anyone question you. And I'm saying all this because this is what I did.
Right. I did for 15 years. I'm just like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh,
exactly.
They didn't mean that. Oh, I should have gotten the promotion in 2005 and they brought somebody else in to do it. Oh, when they finally gave the promotion, they didn't let everybody in the community know that I was actually promoted. Oh, when I got the promotion, oh, they're not going to pay you any more money. I mean, I could have accepted all of that. And that's when I said enough was enough. I see what you're doing.
Yeah. And thank God Gen Z is,
They're those, yeah,
you know,
they're not afraid.
They're not afraid.
They're not afraid.
And they're pushing back, and I love that.
I love it too.
I love that,
Yeah.
and I hope it continues like that. But yeah, just speaking up in whatever little ways that you can, that I can. You know, my kids, you know, my daughter here, my youngest one, she's my fight the power. You know, she's the one. She will speak her. She will speak her mind. She even experienced it. I mean, she's 20, but so she hasn't experienced life that much. But her thing is singing, and she's experienced it in show choir. She's grounded. She loves the Lord. All my kids do, and they know I'm not going to have to step on anyone's back. Know that you don't have to step on anyone's back. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be boisterous. You do the best that you can do.
Yeah.
And that is enough. You are enough. I never thought that I was enough because I thought I always had to do more. So I want to get out there, have conversations like this. You know, talk about DEI and clinical research just to get people to start to think. And, you know, I remember at one job, I was, had almost a 2-hour conversation with my manager because they were talking about DEI and clinical research on a call. And that group was being led by a Caucasian person. And so we were just talking things, and they're in the chat, putting in different things. I said, and make sure that the people working on the team reflect the population that you're trying to meet.
serving.
Oh, well, that was horrible. I spent 2 hours on the phone with her explaining how, because she was like, I'm sure you wouldn't have said that. You know, you made the person feel bad. I'm like, why? I was stating a fact. I'm like, I know this.
Yeah.
I was just stating a fact. And, well, that hurt her feelings. It didn't. She's just making this up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I even broke down to, and I'm usually very respectful, and I was still very respectful, but, and I told her, I said, you know, one could view you as being a racist. I said, I know you're not, but one could. From what you're saying. You're telling me one can view me as being like I was attacking her, she said that, or, you know, that I was being confrontational. One can view you as being, you know.
Right. It's amazing though how their narratives are always the right narratives and our narratives are not believed.
So I think we need to keep doing what we're doing. I will continue to advocate for DEI and clinical research, health equity, knowing that you can have backlash from it. You know, at that particular job, she tried to, well, I'm sure it was just because, you know, you have a lot of stress on you because of your mom being sick with COVID. And, you know, it may have come, you know, the way you said it. They used that little information against you. And I said, no.
It's got nothing to do with that.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it is what it is. I said, I was just stating the fact.
Yeah.
You can look it up on the internet if you don't believe me. I'm like, I was just stating the fact. So, because they'll use anything against you. And, and even though she was as sick as she was, I continued to work, praise God, and my work didn't falter. You know, it's just, you know, I just get into this mindset, you know, I'm like, okay, this is research, you know, this is my mom. And I still probably have to process that because she almost died. And we have to process that. Look at within yourselves. Just think, I mean, if you think, well, then it probably is. So look at that. Don't be afraid to admit it to yourself. Don't be afraid to, if you don't feel comfortable or safe saying it at work, say it to family, friends, whomever. Reach out to EWA. send messages,
There's
message
help.
me on LinkedIn, whatever, if you just want to vent or anything, you know, do so. It's just, you have to talk about it. We're talking about it. We're going to continue to talk about it. Never thought I would be here talking
Never
about
did
it,
I.
ever. But this is, the Lord was just putting me out here. So I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah,
So
God said, I got something for you guys.
so yeah, so this is just, you know, again, still introvert, but I experienced this, so it's on.
It's on.
It's on.
It's
And,
on.
you know, we have to keep informing people because I did not know.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know.
All these years, I did not
that's what it
know. And it's like, this has been going on, not just recently, not within the last 10, 20, this has been going on. I
For
can
centuries,
remember my
forever.
mom as a nurse, things that
Yeah.
she went through. And I was little. And it's just like, we have to
have to
stop
break the
it.
cycle.
We have to break the cycle.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
There's something that I do at the end of all of my shows, whoever I'm interviewing. A lot of times this whole moment and movement, if you will, it's really about not being seen and valued and heard. And I've always said that if no one believes your story, because my story wasn't believed, irrefutable facts and evidence didn't matter. My story wasn't believed. But if no one believes your story, I do. I believe it.
We do.
We do. Yeah, we do.
EWA does. And just, I want to put it
do.
out there that EWA is not just African Americans.
No, it's
It was
everyone.
started by
It was started by two white women.
Yeah, two Caucasians. And so it's not just specific to African Americans or BIPOC. It is more prevalent, yes. But it spans all races,
Yes.
all genders, because we have some men in the group here in Indiana as well. So men out there, don't think that it can't happen to you.
Absolutely.
Because
LGBTQ,
it can.
everybody. It can
It
happen
does,
to
exactly.
everyone. Although I will say, I was on a state directors meeting yesterday with the other directors from across the country, and we are beginning to focus now specifically on black folks, people of color, because it is different. It just is. And for us to deny that, to put us all in one big,
Right.
circle and say, well, we're all the same, it isn't. It's really what I call a double jeopardy, because we have the egregiousness and the unconscionable behavior, which I believe the foundation of it is born out of implicit bias. So when you have the combination, our situations are much more it's exacerbated.
But if they can't put you in a box.
Right.
I remember working at a company, and they said, well, what are you? So I knew what she meant. I said,
Yeah. But you're like,
I'm an
I want you-
American.
yeah, I want you
So
to
what do you
explain
mean? Well, what are you? I'm American. She said, well, your skin is light. Your hair, and at the time my hair was long and wavy, and your hair is soft and wavy, and the clothes that you wear, it even touched my clothes.
Oh my
She's like, and the
gosh.
clothes that you wear, and pictures of my mom's fair skin, and then she saw my kids, and then she said, so what are you? I'm an American.
I'm an
I don't understand
American.
what you're saying.
Right.
So, and then she eventually dropped it. So that also caused, because they were like, well,
Yeah.
what is she?
Because it's
We don't know
almost
how
as
to
if
put-
they're
yeah.
really saying that based on who I think you are is how I'm going to treat you.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that.
Exactly.
There's a privilege that comes with whatever, and based on what I perceive you to be is how I will treat you.
Exactly.
If I now know for sure that you are black, that means, let's keep it real, that I'm going to treat you a certain way. And that's real. These are real conversations, real issues, real, egregiousness that is happening every single day in every aspect of society. In every aspect of society.
Yep.
We talk about being seen and valued and heard. I also believe that everyone has the right, it is our birthright to thrive in life in every aspect of society. That is our birthright. How do you, after having been through this experience, how do you define thriving now? How do you thrive in life? What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? What brings you peace? Even in the midst of this workplace bullying storm that we are in, how do you still find peace?
In knowing that I chose myself, that I finally chose myself.
Yes.
Yeah. Which even as a mom, you have your kids are before you, your husbands, all of that. Everything is before you. You don't choose yourself. But in this instance, I chose myself. I put myself first. You know, when I went out on leave, that was hard because again, I'm like, I can do this, I can push through this. But then when you're having signs and symptoms of a heart attack and everything else, I'm like, okay, Lord,
Take time. Yeah.
I got you. I'll stop. I'll stop. But yeah, I just knowing that I did something that I never done.
Yeah.
I chose myself, and I'm getting involved in this. Don't know where the Lord's going to take it, but it's just, you know, whenever you know, like I said, I know I've always thought that whatever I've gone through, it's to help someone else.
Absolutely.
And then to see that happen, because sometimes you may not see it. You know, you may have gone through things and then it ended up helping someone else from something that you've said or you've done, and you don't know that you've helped that person or you've helped that cause. But being able to see that I'm going to be helping people and I can talk to young girls, Gen Z, you know, to try to break that cycle, that makes me feel good because I don't want anyone to live what I've lived through, what you have lived through. I don't want, and I'm saying our girls, but this can happen to men too, to be crying like I did at night. I'm like, Lord, just help just
me.
show me, just tell me what I need to do. I'll do it. Just show me what I'm doing wrong. And to not know that it's because you're amazing that this is happening to you. So don't stop being amazing. Don't stop being excellent. You keep thriving. You keep doing you. And that keeps me going, knowing that if I can share my story and prevent even just one person.
Yeah,
just
that's what I
one
say.
person, you know, it's all worth it. And Kelly, you're doing the right thing, and I feel I'm getting my power back.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
We applaud you and thank you for your bravery and for your courage and for having the power to speak your truth and knowing that you are supported and surrounded by others who see you and believe you and know that you are valuable. And as you said, you keep being excellent. You keep being excellent. And the right, as your daughter says, the right company will find you.
Yeah.
The right company will find you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to give this to you very briefly, and I want us to kind of go through. We're ready for a kind of a Q&A. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. As you are thinking about what you might want to ask of either one of us or both of us, I want to go through very quickly about in workplace abuse. And what we're trying to do, again, is pass the Workplace Psychological Safety Act. It basically is going to make sure that all companies in America, that, you know, they are going to be held accountable. We talked about having independent investigations that will not be part of HR or part of that company, in addition to making sure that companies are held accountable legally as well as civilly, but even financially, because there's a lot that goes on when you are being manipulated, the gaslighting, the microaggressions, the discrimination. And for many people, they are not able to go to a therapist because we know it's cost prohibitive sometimes for people. They don't have money to file a lawsuit. I will tell you, suing the legal system is not meant for ordinary, regular people. It's not. It's almost as if justice is only for those people who are rich and powerful, have the means to make it happen. For those of us who are just normal, average people who are looking for justice, it is extremely difficult. I literally want to set up a foundation so that people have the money to go see therapists in addition to helping them fight their legal battles, because this has to stop. You should be able to pursue a case because there is a case, but not because you don't have enough money. Not because it's cost prohibitive. That's wrong. That's inequitable. So we're really going to be working on that. So those are the really main two things. Like I mentioned earlier, Massachusetts has already started Rhode Island is the next step. And I believe that Indiana, we have about 40 people or so and counting who are now part of EWA Indiana. And we have already recognized and identified some legislators that we were going to begin speaking with and having those one-on-one conversations with so that we can have this bill passed in the state of Indiana. We all know we are an at-will state. Somebody wants to let you go, they can let you go for no reason whatsoever, and you have no legal recourse. That has to change. That has to change. So we are moving forward, and if you or someone you know would love to join us, we would love to have them be part of this because as we all know, there's power in numbers. There's definitely power in numbers. But I want to go through this little checklist, if you will, from an employee standpoint, because you may be asking yourself, you know, when you hear the word workplace abuse, it is such a strong word. When she said it, I was like, I'm not being abused. No, what are you talking about? And when she really explained it, I realized that I really was, that I really, really was. So let's just kind of go through this, this list, if you will, from EWA, so that you can think about where you live, where you work, and if you have ever had this experience, then you have been involved in a hostile workplace environment.
Alrighty, so wonder if their mistreatment is due to a performance issue or their identity.
Yeah, so these are some of the things
So-
to think about.
Yes, yeah.
Because you might be going, well, have I been abused? I don't really know.
Right.
Here's how to know that you have been.
Yes, yes. And I've already spoke. I thought
Yeah.
it was me, right? Hiding part of who they are in fear of no longer belonging to a privileged group. I mean, we've touched on
We
that.
touched on it, yeah.
See speaking up to HR or higher-ups as a dead-end route when they see that route not going well for their coworkers.
We talked about that.
Have to choose between their health and a paycheck when abuse of power causes intolerable stress. Know that if they go up against their employer, there'll be one person against an army and a system. And internalize the oppression as trauma and insecurity, and then feel blame and shame for struggling less than, fearful, uncomfortable, and alienated. All of that.
All of it. All of it. And so now here is the checklist to think about as it relates to your boss and or your employer. They control the narrative through lies, including in your reviews. Have you all ever had a review and you're like, well, that's not right? And they're like, but you got to sign here. You got to sign here. Like, but that's not what happened. That's not true. Speak up without fear of retaliation or minimization. They see people of their privileged identity groups at the top and in the history of their organizations normalizing looking the part of leader. Mostly being in the company of people of their privileged identity groups, and they feel part of the in crowd. They minimize and ignore those not in the in crowd. They use positive stereotypes to kiss up and negative stereotypes to kick down. Ooh. Oh, that. Let me make a little note on that one. I'm gonna do a whole show on that because that got a lot of reaction from y'all. They stand by white patriarchal norms regardless of their identity. They count on their identity to give their views more weight. We've already talked about that. That is truly a privilege where they're like, well, no one's going to believe you. No one's going to believe you guys. If you all are old enough to remember the case in Boston back in, was it the late 80s, early 90s, where a man killed his wife, but he blamed it on a black man. And the entire city of Boston, where I think there's I think it's on Netflix or Hulu or something that's playing recently. The entire city of Boston was looking for a black man, and all of y'all black men in here fit the image. But they were looking for a black man, and come to find out that it was actually the husband. But it was on national television. It was everywhere, and they literally believed this man that it was a black man who committed the crime. Another case from a news perspective. I forget her name, but she was a white woman who had 2 children. Susan, come on. You know what I'm talking about. The entire nation was captivated by this black man who killed her 2 kids and are you kidding me? But just think about that narrative. Their narratives are always believed. Last thing, they pay themselves high wages, even if it means paying their employees poverty wages to reinforce their power. That was me as well. When I finally was promoted, there was no pay raise. I expected a pay raise, so I had my agent call. I should have, after all these years. You're giving me more responsibilities, but your excuse was this. Y'all ready for this one? It was duties as assigned.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
Duties as assigned.
I got that.
And I said, I'm done, because what you're not going to do is use me. You're not using me. I see what you're doing. You're not going to use me, because now I'm at a place and point in my life where I just got to be real and live true, and I want to work with people who are collaborative and good people and kind people. But I want everyone to realize that you have the choice to make, to have courage. Have courage over the comfort of working for people. Create something on your own. Find the people who you can collaborate with, who really see you and value you, and who bring you joy. So when I think about how do I thrive now, my thriving is in the ability to choose. I couldn't choose before. Were you laughing? Is that?
Because I just said that to someone last
Yeah.
night. I have the ability to choose.
To
That's
choose.
my superpower.
That's my superpower. Yes. Oh, I'm good. That's it. It's the ability to choose. There is a freedom in being able to choose. There's a freedom. And so I want everyone to feel that. And when you feel it, it's like you can't go back. I'll never go back.
And start with choosing yourself.
And start with choosing yourself.
Choosing
And that's
yourself
exactly
first.
it, choosing yourself. There's power in numbers and there's power in our stories. All of our stories are relevant, important, and we have to be able to share them with one another.
And just by saying it,
Gives you
you'll get a
power.
little bit of that
Oh,
power
yeah.
back.
Yes, yes,
Just,
you
yeah,
do.
when I said something when I just type in that text, I mean that DM to you, it was like I didn't realize it, but it was me starting to take that step. So,
In part 3, the audience opens up about their workplace experiences and solutions to save their souls.